Certainly, I'd be glad to. The atheist or non-believer, there's no such thing as an atheist, and I'm about to prove it. The non-believer claims that belief in God is simply a silly, misguided notion with no real meaning. Worshipping an invisible God that doesn't exist is purely a waste of time, energy, and resources. In addition, they claim that atheism is the default programming for all human beings, and belief in God is not innate or inborn, but must be taught or rewired in at a later date. This, in general, is the atheistic moniker. Now, if this is true, by the laws of natural selection and evolutionary biology, this voluntary behavior or trait would have ceased to be and fallen extinct thousands of years ago. But because this hasn't happened, we must therefore conclude that worshiping a god is a universal human condition, like sleeping or eating or finding shelter. For if there were ever human beings that didn't worship an invisible God, then clearly this would have been an advantageous trait that would have unquestionably found success in the reproductive gene pool, competing against the weaker God-fearing trait, and eventually over time would have won out, okay? Thereby forcing the God-worshipping humans into extinction. Let's examine this process closer so we can gain a more understandable illustration of what's taking place. We must travel back to earlier times within our species, perhaps like hunter-gatherer era humans, okay? Let's say there was a group or a tribe of people that coalesced together for the purpose of hunting and security, which is the way most anthropologists would describe it. We'll play by their rules, no big deal. We can win even on their home court, I promise. This group of humans collectively worshipped God. They paid homage to an invisible force greater than them. Okay, for example, on a large-scale hunt before winter, this group is successful and kills 5 water buffalo. Okay, they will make use of every last part of the animal, hide, tusk, food, of course. Even the bones will be carved into weapons and utensils. Okay, but they will also burn one of the water buffalo in a primitive religious ceremony, thereby offering it up to this invisible God as a thank you for a prosperous and rewarding hunt. So they killed 5, but will only benefit physically from 4, okay, of the water buffalo they slaughtered. Now this is a typical group from the hunter-gatherer era of human beings by a typical physical anthropologist, okay? Anthropologists agree that this is an accurate account of groups like this during this period. Now, at the same time all this is going on, miles away, in another pasture of land, is a second group of early humans, close to the same number as the first group and together for the same reasons. On a similar hunt before winter, they too kill 5 water buffalo and will use all parts of the animals for sustenance and survival. However, this second group of humans is slightly different from the first, for they do not worship an invisible God. Due to their non-belief, they do not waste or offer up any of their buffaloes to appease some non-existent God. Now clearly, in this scenario, the first group has a glaring disadvantage, don't they? For they continuously waste valuable food and resources for no reason. Straight away, we can see the pattern that's going to develop over time, can't we? I mean, you don't need a master's degree in evolutionary biology to predict what's going to happen. Eventually, over time, the second group of humans is going to win out, for they will be stronger, warmer in the winter, and generally healthier due to a more abundant food supply. As generations pass, the second group will overwhelm the first group that waste its resources. The females will assimilate into the new group that's formed, and through natural selection and survival of the fittest, will choose the stronger, healthier, dominant males for reproduction who do not exhibit the weaker trait of throwing away resources. By this process happening again and again and again over time, the trait of worshiping an invisible God would have disappeared and fell into extinction. This is the law of natural selection. You cannot sidestep it. Now, of course, a major problem still exists, doesn't it? Because the world is undeniably filled with God worshippers. Okay? So what happened? What went wrong? Finally, here comes the crushing blow for the atheist. The reason the trait for worshiping an invisible God has not vanished is because there was never the second group. There was never a second group. They never existed. I made them up. All human beings have a God, and they always have. Now, this doesn't prove God's existence. It just proves that all human beings have a God and worship a God. And what we've done is we've just slayed the non-believers with their own sword, evolution. Okay? There is no such thing as an atheist. There never has been. All human beings worship a God. You just get to choose the God.